Ho! Welcome to the Tuesday Morning After Pill. My name is Matt Talley. It is a pleasure to be with y'all today. If you are tuning in for the first time, congratulations, because everybody's tuning in for the first time. This is a new podcast. It's a new endeavor, new vision for your boy. A little bit about myself. If I do not know you, if you do not know me, I hope that over the next forever many times we do this, that you will get to know me a little bit. My name is Matt Talley. I am a stand-up comedian. I am currently based in Atlanta, Georgia. I am here by way of Baltimore, Maryland, where I am from originally. I've been doing stand-up comedy for the last few years here in Atlanta, Georgia. I have performed hundreds of spots and sets throughout the city. I have traveled throughout the Southeast for comedy, and it's something that I love very, very, very much. But something else that I love very, 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 very much, brothers, wrestling. And with this whole comedy thing, you got to find something to do to keep yourself sane. You got to find something to do to just spend your days decompressing, because we just go, go, go. We do shows, and we need something for us. And my thing for the last few years has been Monday Night Raw. I've loved wrestling basically my entire life. Now, admittedly, there were some dark times. There were some times where I fell away from it. These things happen, all right? Even the best in the world steps away for a while. Even they become disenchanted. And there was a period of time where kayfabe died for me, and so did my Monday and Friday nights. I think it also was around the time where I became an adult and started having plans on Mondays and Friday nights. And I stepped away from it for a while. But over the last few years, I have been back in love. I have fallen back in love with WWE, specifically Monday Night Raw. Like I said, I am a comedian. I'm out pretty much every night of the week, especially on weekends. So I don't get to SmackDown. And if I'm lucky, I get the PLEs. But if there's one thing that I am free for and open for pretty consistently, it is Monday Night Raw. And because of that, it is my reprieve weekly. I get to do pizza and wrestling. I get to vibe out, chill out, decompress. It is kind of the end of my work week, right? Like as comedians, we kind of start getting real busy around Thursdays, and we kind of stop on Sunday night. So Monday is kind of my Saturday night, and I get a chance to enjoy wrestling, and it's something that I've been watching for years now. It's my happy time, my special place. It's not my happy time. That is a different website. But it is my thing, man, and I've loved it very much over the last couple of years. But one thing that I very much love, more than wrestling, more than comedy, something that I have loved since I was a wee lad, something that incorporates into both of them pretty intensely, is story writing, storytelling. And that's kind of the aim of this podcast, right? This podcast, unfortunately, kayfabe will not live here. This podcast is dedicated to kind of looking at the week's events from Monday Night Raw, talking about the storylines, talking about previous storylines and where they've gone in the past, talking about what they're doing currently, and me giving kind of my vision and my ideas for storylines going forward for Monday Night Raw specifically. It is the only one I get to watch because, again, I'm very busy. So my hope is that over the coming weeks, this is something that I can do pretty consistently. It is fortunate that wrestling is a weekly evergreen thing, and we as comics are always looking for something that we can do that's pretty consistent. So I think this could be the thing. Now, like I said, when it comes to this podcast, I think I'm going to do a lot of vision casting, a lot of storytelling, crafting of where I think things could go, where I think things should go. And why am I doing this, you ask? Well, because if there's one thing that could get me to quit comedy forever, it would be a phone call from Paul Triple H Levesque saying, Matt, I've watched your podcasts for the last few months, and I really like what you're thinking when it comes to how we're going to move Javon Evans forward and how we're going to make Sol Ruka turn heel. So, Matt, I think maybe we should meet up here in Connecticut because I think it's time for you to play the game. That's what I want. That's what I want. And honestly, like if I were to get a call from Paul Triple H Levesque and end up becoming a writer for WWE, which would be a fucking dream, I could still like take the train down into New York and do comedy down there, right? Yeah. everything works out. Everything has its place. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But like I said, that's what the aim of this podcast is to do some storytelling, to do some shit talking. If that's cool with you guys, I hope you follow along for the journey. That is the main point of this podcast, but I'm sure that as things move along, as things grow and develop, we'll get segments. We'll get recurring bits even. Maybe we'll have a guest or two, maybe some podcast co-hosts. I don't know. Maybe we'll even get a theme song. Maybe. I do know that this is something that not only I love, but that's something lots of people love. And I am fortunate to have, made some friends in the wrestling community. So my hope is that as this grows, they will get to become part of this as well. And then obviously everyone loves this, right? There are so many people that this is their thing. And because of that, I feel like there's so much room for collaboration with other comics and other people being involved. So I'm just really excited for the potential of what this could be and what this could turn into. And I hope that y'all come along for the ride. So if you haven't yet, fucking hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's see where this shit goes. But as I said, this is the Tuesday Morning After Pill podcast, because after you go in Raw on Monday night, you got to take a Tuesday morning after pill to, make sure you mitigate a lot of the fun you had or maybe some of the mistakes you made. And that's what I want to do here on this show. Now, there are some ground rules to this show. I'm not going to be really talking about contract extensions. They may be mentioned here and there. Obviously, that does play a role in the writing. But when it comes to other companies and other competitors and other wrestlers, that's not what this is. This is a WWE podcast. Non-sanctioned, of course. But if you wanted to include me in those cool reels of reactions to, PLEs or Monday Night Raws, where I'm like, ah! And it happens over top of, Roman Reigns fucking spearing somebody, that would be sick. I'd like that very much. So WWE, YouTube, call me. All right, let's go ahead. Let's dive in, dude. I'm excited about this. We're going to break down the events of last night's Monday Night Raw. It starts out with Roman Reigns coming out the OTC. He comes out victorious over Seth Rollins back at SummerSlam this past weekend. As I stated before, this is a Monday Night Raw podcast, so I'm not going to go too much into the events of PLEs. I do think that there is an opportunity here where if this grows, doing maybe live streams during PLEs, putting them on Patreons possibly would be an option. We'll see where it goes. This is strictly limited to Monday Night Raw, but because it is coming off of the events of SummerSlam in Minnesota, some things are just going to have to be talked about, right? And so Roman Reigns comes out in Iowa to fanfare, but he also comes out to a little bit of boo-birding, right? He comes out to some chants against him, and he notices this, and what he does is he ends up giving his flowers to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins from Iowa, and Seth Rollins missing from the Monday Night Raw lineup last night. And Roman gave the crowd a chance to do what he was doing as well, and that is letting Seth know that he loves him and they love him. It does seem like the Shield storyline is finally dead and gone. Reports suggest that this storyline was going to be the prevalent storyline for WrestleMania 42, but unfortunately, due to Seth Rollins' injury, that wasn't a potential. So they've had to pivot and move in different directions, and I think they've done that. They went the Seth and Punk route, which was vaguely similar, but at the end of the day, this was something that may have been a lot cooler, but it is what we worked with. And famously, the staff over at WWE working with what they have, and they moved Roman Reigns forward. And now, obviously, Seth Rollins is back. And being that Seth Rollins is back, they wanted to, in some way, shape, or form, complete that Shield storyline. And I think they did just that. But coming off of the end of the Shield storyline, we see LA Knight come out in Iowa, giving Roman Reigns a piece of his mind. Roman does not take that lightly, and as a result, he sicks Jacob Fatu on LA Knight and Royce Keys and all of the people who went against them again in SummerSlam. Solo Sikoa, Royce Keys, LA Knight defeating the Usos and Jacob Fatu in a triple tag. A triple tag match. Yes, excuse me. So Roman is nonplussed over this moment. Roman is none too pleased over the fact that LA Knight has pissed in his Cheerios, and as a result, he sicks Jacob Fatu on Royce Keys. Royce Keys being related to the Fatus through marriage, being very good friends with Jacob Fatu throughout his come up within independent wrestling and now WWE. So Roman, being the OTC, knowing that he has full control over Jacob and that Jacob has since basically relinquished any type of free will to Roman, sicks Jacob on Royce Keys. He is not a part of the bloodline, and he's not even really part of the family. He married in, he's just your buddy, teach him a lesson. And we see the results of that towards the end of the episode. After that, we do see All Ego Ethan Page take on Javon Evans. Here's the thing with what we're dealing with these mid cards, right? I do think that the mid card talent, for the most part, is the most promising young talent that we have seen in WWE for a very fucking long time, dude. When you talk about Javon Evans, when you talk about All Ego Ethan Page, when you talk about Sol Ruca, when you talk about Penta, when you talk about Chad Gable, when you talk about these mid cards in terms of talent and in terms of sellability, are just absolutely indisposable. They are necessary to the brand. And they're, I think, kind of what's keeping it afloat. A lot of big name wrestlers have been hurt over the last few months, and what we've seen is a lot of young guys getting called up, and a lot of these mid-card guys really leaning into storylines that has carried Monday Night Raw over the last 6 months to almost a year or so. And we're seeing those things come to fruition with Chad Gable being crowned the Intercontinental Champion. But I'm going to circle back to All Ego, Ethan Page, and Javon Evans here for a second, because that match was a bit non-consequential. I do very much like what they're doing with All Ego Ethan Page. I find myself hating him. And if I find myself hating him, that means that he is doing his job correctly. I don't hate him because of his writing. I hate him because of his character, and he's doing it well. He can wrestle. He's great on the mic. He is a great heel. He is a great manipulator, and I think there's a lot that you can do with that character. Specifically, in terms of doing something with Javon Evans, I think you want to kind of pull some people away from this. And it does seem to be that's what they're doing here, right? Because at the end of the match with All Ego Ethan Page and Javon Evans, we do see the reintroduction of Big Cass. Big Cass been out of WWE now for, I believe, 8 years. And he comes in towards the end of the match, gives Javon a big boot to the head, and ends the match suddenly. In doing that, I think you gave a very interesting storyline plausibility to there. Because what we've seen out of Javon, and I will say that last night's match may be the most acrobatic match that we've seen out of Javon in weeks. Boy was bouncy. You know, he was back. He was your classic Javon Evans bouncing around, and I love that. But in introducing Big Cass and in introducing Big Cass in the way that you have introduced him, I think you do provide a very interesting storyline for these two, because Javon Evans is on the rise. He's on the come up. Everyone loves him. But what we have seen out of Javon Evans over the last few weeks is a bit more of an intentional aggression on his part. He's starting to rock the grill, which, cool. You know, like, whatever, dude. I am not personally a fan of the grill, and simply because I think it interferes with promos. I think if you can't speak clearly for the promo, that's half the job. And because of that, I say lose the grill. But what we've seen out of Javon Evans, the young OG, because he's a young OG. He's not a young. He's not a what? Anyway, he's not, he's not that. He's not, he didn't wear shiesty, is what I'm saying. Okay, anyway, moving on. But what I think you have in this introduction with Big Cass is a potential very cool storyline between Big Cass and Javon Evans. In his interview later on in the show, Big Cass says, Javon, it's nothing personal. I just came here to stack bodies, and you were the first person in my way. And I think that's all well and good, and I think that's fair. And I think what that does is it provides a motivation for Big Cass that is humble in nature and not aggressive in nature. But, listen, dude, I live in Atlanta, and you see these two kinds of people interact often. And when you do, it is wild. It is wild. So, you got big-ass, country-fed white boy. You got bouncy, urban, cool, and now kind of aggressive black guy. Do you see where I'm going with this? And because we've already introduced Big Cass's intentions, that Javon was just the first dude in the way, we know that it's coming from not a bad place. But, all things being equal, you can kind of run with this storyline. And it can be unspoken, right? It can be kind of a thing where this is why Javon doesn't like Big Cass. Because he thinks Big Cass is racist. And why would you choose me first? And he doesn't fuck with him. But that is a potential storyline that you can start pulling the thread of, where you can say the thing without ever actually saying the thing. And there doesn't need to be any kind of blindside moment. There doesn't need to be, it can just be, I thought I understood you differently, and now I understand you better. And it can resolve in whatever way that you want to resolve. That is my thought when it comes to the introduction of Big Cass and a potential storyline that you can move forward with when it comes to Javon. Moving on from Big Cass and Javon, we did see the Judgment Day make its return to Monday Night Raw last night. Now, here's the thing with the Judgment Day. I have been saying this for months now. It does feel like this crew is seemingly falling apart. Admittedly, if I'm going to do this, I understand that I want to work for WWE one day, but I need to be honest, and it does feel like the Judgment Day's storylines are whack right now. It feels as though there is no real inherent sense of direction. And there was something that happened at the end of Monday Night Raw that we will touch on later in the podcast that could help facilitate a lot of the things that I am going to float here. But what we see out of the Judgment Day currently is Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan essentially floating three people that they don't need to float anymore. Because over the last few months, what we have seen is the rise, and obviously she was a phenom from the jump, but what we have seen is a constant performance out of Roxanne. What we have seen is constant performance out of Raquel. What we have seen is constant performance out of JD McDonough. But what we have not seen are substantive storylines for Dominic and for Liv Morgan. That is my opinion. Take it or leave it. If you agree or you disagree, let me know in the comments. But I think in summation, we can look at the match from SummerSlam, which unfortunately is one of the worst rated matches in recent history, between Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, and Danhausen, for the human monies on a pole match, which honestly, I don't even really put as a negative for Danhausen. I think these are the things that you expect out of Danhausen, but Dominic Mysterio is wrestling royalty. He is part of a lineage that you can really work story-wise, and what we're doing is putting him in almost constant cartoon-esque storylines that don't seem to really help him grow and evolve as a heel or just as a wrestler in general. We know that he has the skill, But oftentimes, I think Dominic's Mysterio has been kind of pigeonholed into this cartoon character that I don't think that he needs to be. And ultimately, he has all the potential in the world to do whatever he would like. Same with Liv Morgan. The sky is the limit with the two of them. So why are they floating three people that they don't need to float? Raquel is the Intercontinental Champion. Roxanne has been the prodigy since she came in. JD is getting better on the mic consistently, constantly. I would argue that he's better on the mic than Dominic. Maybe it is that he is carrying Dominic when it comes to promo. These three wrestlers are independent wrestlers now. They have the right to hold the belts on their own. They don't need to continue down this Judgment Day storyline. And I think that we started to see the beginnings of it last night, specifically between Liv and Roxanne. Liv is, kind of gassing up all of her Judgment Day counterparts, talking about, their individual accomplishments. And then she gets to Roxanne and she goes, and Roxy, you'll always just be my little prodigy. And it does seem like Roxanne kind of took that personal after the match with Sol Ruca. And I think that's a good thing. I do think that we're currently spreading seeds of Roxanne going off to be an independent wrestler and doing her own thing. I think that we already see that out of Raquel. The alienation of Roxanne could mean that Raquel and Roxanne leave the Judgment Day and then become an independent tag team together, both of their personalities carrying them and making them an absolutely formidable tag team. I love the idea of that, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy with a podcast. But at the end of the match between Roxanne Perez and Sol Ruca, we did see a reintroduction because before their match, Liv was cutting a promo where she talked about how nobody has had the right to challenge her for anything. Nobody has stepped up. She's held this title for as long as she's held it because nobody's worth fighting. Nobody has tried to take it from her. No one stepped up to her. And then we see the Roxanne Sol Ruca match go down. It gets a DQ, and then the Judgment Day proceeds to jump Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca, eventually gets away. Nobody really comes to her aid, but at the end of the beatdown, the man comes around, and Becky Lynch comes back, cuts a fucking baller promo against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and then lets Raquel know that she's not interested in her belt. She already made that belt. She made that belt what it was. She's interested in Liv's belt. And I love this. I love this very much. I am very excited to have the man back. It does feel like something has been missing for the last couple of months of missing Becky Lynch. But Becky's back, and I do very, 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 very much love the idea of Becky and Liv going against each other. And the reason that I love it so much is because I had this realization the other day when it comes to the Judgment Day. And that is that the Judgment Day, at least between Liv and Dom, very much screams Don John, right? If you've ever seen the absolutely terrible Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, Don John, by all means, just waste an hour and a half of your life. But if you haven't, please allow me to explain. Don John is your typical New Jersey Guido who likes to work out. He lives with his ma. He likes gabagool. He likes a good pasta. He's your Staten Island trash. I used to live in New York. I'm friends with a lot of Staten Island trash. But he's your classic Staten Island Guido, and he meets your Staten Island Guidette in Scarlett Johansson. And what she does is she wields sex as an opportunity to get him to do whatever it is that she wants him to do. So she thinks she can change him. So she tells him that she wants him to go back to college and become a tradesman and work a good job. And if he does, then she'll give it up, And And what ends up happening is that he does go back to school and he meets an older woman who is wiser and kinder to him and not wielding sex as a weapon. And he ends up banging one of his teachers. And I think what we could do here, hear me out, is we could have a very similar storyline between Dom and Liv. A Don John-esque storyline, a Dom John-esque storyline, where because Liv is now threatened by the reintroduction of Becky Lynch, the man coming around and declaring war, wanting her title, she starts pushing Dom to do things to try and help her. And what ends up happening is that she pushes Dom into the arms of an older woman. And I think that there are multiple women that we could use for this. So here is my Mount Rushmore of cougars that Dom could end up with that breaks Liv's heart. Number 1. This one, kind of a no-brainer. Basically, the Coug of all of WWE, the Coug in charge, mind you. I think that there is an opportunity here for us to include someone who is over, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic storyline, but it could be a flirty one enough to really get under Liv's skin. And that could be with another member of wrestling royalty. It could be with one Stephanie McMahon. Dom, for some reason, has to start interacting with Stephanie. Stephanie is kinder. She invests in him. She tells him he doesn't need to deal with Liv's bullshit. And she's a little flirty while she does it. And that just drives Liv up a fucking wall. And she can't handle it. And then she gets too big for her britches. And she steps to the boss lady. And we get to see Stephanie McMahon wrestle again. Come on, man. Come on, pay me, Triple H. I got your wife back in the ring, dog. It's going to be sick. All the monies, all the human monies. Thank you. All right. That is the first suggestion for the Mount Rushmore of potential cougars that could alienate Dom away from Liv Morgan. The second one, I think this is most likely where you could go. It is the most viable option, and with the reintroduction of her last night, it may be the route the WWE is already going in. I don't know. And no, I'm not talking about Becky Lynch. I'm talking about Stephanie Vicaire returning at the end of the segment to give Raquel a nice boot to the fucking face. Stephanie Vicaire is back, also has been gone for months. But I think this is also a brilliant storyline because we've already seen Stephanie and Liv go at it. We've already seen Stephanie and Raquel go at it. This could be the thing that not only drives a wedge between Dom and Liv, but drives a wedge between Dom and the Judgment Day. Dom somehow becoming more complicit to, more empathetic to, and then eventually more interested in Stephanie Vicaire over Liv Morgan would drive her crazy. It would drive Raquel crazy. Stephanie has had run-ins with all of the Judgment Day, Roxanne included. It would drive a wedge between him and all of the women of the Judgment Day. Effectively, again, I know we're trying to sell t-shirts, but we're also trying to sell tickets. Effectively putting the Judgment Day to bed, at least for a significant amount of time, giving them the rest that they deserve. I think that's the route that you could go in. Now, there are a couple other ones, obviously, as well, that could be a lot of fun. You could go Natalya. She could just be training Dom in some capacity. So it is kind of a one-to-one with the Dom John story, the Dom John storyline. So those are just some options. Those are some things that I would suggest. I think I think Dom should bang a Coog. That's what I'm saying. That's what I think. That's what I think. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. After that, we do get to see Obafemi return after SummerSlam. Again, mentioning SummerSlam because it is necessary to the events of last night's Monday Night Raw. But we see Obafemi return to SummerSlam. Excuse me, return to Monday Night Raw. And in returning to Monday Night Raw, he talks about his respect for Brock Lesnar, his now understanding of Brock Lesnar and what Brock Lesnar was trying to do, and trying to see if he really was ready, if he really was the next up, if he really was going to take the torch from Brock and continue to pave new roads in WWE. And in doing this, what he does is say that he knows and understands his vision moving forward. And I love this. I love this as a calling for Obafemi because Oba is already in mythological character status. He's defeated the Beast incarnate. He has beaten Brock Lesnar on multiple occasions. Brock Lesnar, having defeated The Undertaker, there is a passing of the mythos from those characters, from one to another, from Undertaker to Brock to now Obafemi. So you could just slap a belt on him, right? You could throw a belt on him, call it a day, have him be the ruler, and have him rock the belt for a while. But what they did, and what I think is interesting, and what provides an opportunity for so many storylines, is that Oba has felt the calling and the passing of the torch to need to retire the old guard. And we've already seen this kind of out of Gunther. Gunther is the career killer. And now we have Oba realizing that it's now the young people's time. And I mentioned this earlier. These mid-card wrestlers are the best wrestlers in WWE. These young wrestlers are the best wrestlers in WWE. A lot of the hokiness, a lot of the things that people go, oh, that's a little silly, are coming from people who have been established in WWE for a while and haven't seemed to find their way. Whereas you have all the potential in the world for these young talent in WWE. And Oba knows this. He knows that he is the future. And as the future, it is his job to weed away the past. And any of the old guard that gets in his way will be ended by Obafemi. I love this. I love this very much. Because this potentially gives us an out. And I don't even really want to say this, but it gives us an out for guys like CM Punk. It gives us an out for older wrestlers who are wondering, how much longer do I have to do this? Maybe they want to move into the direction of creative. Maybe they want to move into a different position. You know, Shawn Michaels has been in NXT for a very long time. Maybe Shawn's ready to enjoy the farm. Maybe we see a CM Punk down at NXT. And maybe the way we facilitate that is through the changing of the guard, not just through Oba, but through Oba, through Gunther, through Braun Breaker. Because at the end of Oba's segment, we see the Vision come out. The Vision being, at this point, Braun Breaker and Austin Theory. They are joined by Maxine Dupree, and they're coming out for a match against Joe Hendry. But Braun Breaker can't believe what he's just heard. For years, he has been referred to as the future of WWE. And now here, Brock has decided that Oba is the future of WWE. Oba is the one getting rid of the old guard. Oba? What happened to Braun Breaker? And he can't handle it. He can't even think about his match with Joe Hendry, so much so that he takes him out and immediately goes backstage and talks to Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is realizing that there's something at play here. He has the ability to play them against each other. What we have on our hands is a triple threat storyline for the foreseeable future over the New Guard. The three killers in the New Guard, in Gunther, in Oba, and in Braun Breaker, constantly going against each other. And I think if we play this right, what we can do is play these three men against each other for a very, very long time. Have them all start racking up bodies. Gunther's already taken the lead for who he has retired. But Oba, having now essentially retired Brock Lesnar now appearing on the alumni section of WWE.com and not in the active roster, meaning that he is most likely retired. They did include imagery from WrestleMania in the packet last night for Brock's kind of goodbye packet, if you will. There was no goodbye to him. There was no, we'll see you next time. There was just, Brock saying, I am the old guard. Oba is the new guard. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think that's the way it was supposed to be. I think Brock at WrestleMania got a little trigger happy and decided that he didn't want to do this anymore. He's tired. He's ready to go home. But let's remember that when Brock put down The Undertaker for the first time, there was that same passing of the guard. And what it allowed for WWE to do was to turn The Undertaker into a godlike mythological character who could just come and go as he pleased. He was kind of the decider of storylines. And if you couldn't really find an out, this is a writing term. It's called Deus Ex Machina. It means God from the machine. It's essentially The Undertaker could come in and right any storyline wrong. And now that The Undertaker is part of creative and he is older, I think what we have now is something very similar in Brock Lesnar, something that we can see kind of mirrored in Brock Lesnar going forward. And I think that was probably the plan and can still be the plan going forward, but maybe Brock wasn't made aware of that. And now he is aware of that. So we can go off into the woods and every once in a while the beast incarnate can come back and just wage war and wreak hell on the WWE. He can be the storyline decider. And I like that for Brock. I think that is something that can be utilized going forward for another 5 to 8 years. Like, we have a runway where Brock can be the new Undertaker. Forgive me for saying that. I know. Blasphemy. Yell at me in the comments. But in this, what I would pose to you, the viewer, and the question that I have for creative is, what is the vision anymore? Because I don't see it, right? I just don't see it right now. I don't know what the plan. Like, the vision was the dream, the child, if you will, of Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins' theme song, that's the vision. The title of that song is The Vision. Seth Rollins was the visionary. He created the vision, and we saw an end to the Shield storyline, it seems, this past week. Maybe it's time we see an end to the Vision storyline. Seth famously coming out at SummerSlam in a very interesting choice in gear. I will say that. He's signaling a new rebirth for him. Is this where we see Seth Rollins go face? It's potential. We will see, but regardless, if that is the case, then if everything is dying with the past, perhaps the vision should die with the past as well. They are without Paul Heyman right now. They are without Bronson Reed right now. They are without Logan Paul right now. So they are simply left with Austin Theory and Braun Breaker in a completely uneven tag team, at least in terms of size and what you would typically see out of a standardized tag team, especially one holding the belts. I think it's just there right now. Those belts are on their waists to maintain relevance through all of these injuries, but they're without Paul Heyman now. He has turned his back on them. over recent weeks. They don't necessarily have a move forward. Logan Paul is joining them from time to time, ringside. And I think we have seen in his time ringside that perhaps Logan Paul's wrestling was carrying him a lot farther than his promo skills were. Because oftentimes now all he's doing is just screaming like a cokehead into the microphone. I think that we need to see a reshuffling of the cards on the Vision. I think that's just necessary at this point. And I think the way that you do that is quite easy. Braun Breaker is now on a warpath against Obafemi. Braun Breaker is not going to be able to take on Obafemi alone. And Braun Breaker has someone at his disposal that could help, that's ready to come back, I think, in the next few weeks to a month or two, in Bronson Reed. So I think what we see is that the Vision lose the tag team belts, at least for a time. And then you see Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed kind of go on a warpath to declare themselves as the future of WWE against Gunther and against Oba, as we have previously established. And you see them kind of go off and wreak havoc on their own. That leaves Austin Theory and Logan Paul to their own devices. And I think in doing that, you have a much stronger tag team on your hands between the two of them. And I do think that they are, mixed personalities in terms of like who they are as people. They're the same guy. What am I talking about? They're the same dude. They're both douche bro. So that's the only downside. Okay, I'm just going to I'm trying to say this in the night. You're going to have two real dumb guys on the mic consistently that can wrestle the fuck out of anybody that they go against. But man, they're going to sound dumb. They're going to sound so dumb. They're going to sound so dumb while they do that. And I love them. They are two of, I was excited for Austin Theory to come back. But let's just be real, man. Grayson Waller was right. That man cannot cut a promo to save his life. Austin Theory needs acting lessons. He just does, man. Okay, I got that out. I love Austin Theory. I was very excited for him to come back. I was hoping that, he wouldn't continue to shoot himself in the foot. It does seem kind of like he's doing that right now. And they're giving him scraps. Maybe he had more to work with in terms of working with Logan, and maybe that is the Vision. Listen, we got to stop calling them that. Regardless, maybe we can maintain the name. They are the Vision for the future, because then they are the young guys, and they are, the upstarts, and they are going to be the Vision for the mid-card going forward. You're going to see nothing but Logan Paul, Austin Theory storylines for the next 10 years, as long as they're involved in WWE. So, we can keep the name. Hear me out. What if they change their name? They are like the new ones, right? They're the new wrestlers. They are the Vision for the future, sure. But what if they're like a new day? Okay, no, I won't do it. I miss you. I miss you, New Day. I miss you so much. Okay, all right. But at the conclusion of the show, what we start to see as we're rounding out towards the end of the show is Chad Gable come out now the Intercontinental Champion, having taken the Intercontinental title from Penta. Chad Gable coming out thanking the WWE Universe for always believing in him, over 10 years invested into the company, and now he is finally a singles champion. And it was really great. It was moving. It was nice. And then Penta comes out to congratulate him, to pass along the torch, and to tell him that, through everything that he's been through, his aggression and his hatred towards luchador wrestling, to trying to destroy luchador, ultimately finding a love and a respect for Mexican wrestling, and finding a love and a respect for his fellow wrestler, and finding himself. And because of that, Chad is a true luchador. Lovely. Nice. fine, poignant, whatever. That's cool. I liked it. I liked it very much. But what ends up happening is we see Dom and JD come out. Now, I like this very much. I think this is a storyline worth telling. I think this is something that you can explore in depth because ultimately, Dom does think of himself as the king of the luchadores. And because of that, even though if you have to ask me who the king of the luchadores is, it's that guy. That guy right there. All right. Anyway, I do like the storyline because it does very much like the Javon Big Cass storyline. There's a reality to it, right? And I think when we're writing, especially nowadays, it used to be that people wanted to be informed. They wanted to be told what to think. But now I think people want to be told what to feel. And we are in a very weird world that is interconnected, and we do see cultures learning about each other in real time, and it does feel like a lot of people are clashing against each other. It's a bummer. It sucks. But you can have some fun with it, right? You can educate people through story. You can make people laugh through story. And I do love the idea of Dom very much taking this seriously, and in taking it seriously, we see Dom get more in touch with his roots than he has previously. And in getting more in touch with his roots previously, maybe finding some reconciliation with his father, Rey Mysterio. Now, again, there's more to talk about with Rey moving forward. But I do think that this is a thread to pull. This is a really nice thread to pull. Yeah, you got a classic white guy stealing my culture storyline. A white guy from Minnesota is a luchador? Nah, I can't stand for this. And I like that. I think that's something worth exploring. After that, we see the culmination of the beginning of the show. We see Jacob Fatu take on Royce Keys and beat the dog shit out of Royce Keys. Absolutely beats the brakes off of him in a street fight. At one point, I believe there were 17 chairs in the ring. 17. That's insane. That's bonkers, dude. Beats the dog shit out of Royce Keys, beats the brakes off of him. At the end, Roman comes out, gives a nod of approval. The show ends. Roman walks back into the gorilla position and he sees Rey Mysterio. And Rey says, hey, you know that I'm the general manager of AAA now? Roman says, I do now. He says, can I talk to you about something? He says, absolutely. And they walk off. Very Marvel end credit cutscene from Raw. Well done. I like that very much. I want to know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. The internet seems to have no idea what's going on. But here, before we theorize what Rey and Roman could be up to, I do want to circle back to Royce Keys and Jacob Fatu, because what we see in this is two brothers, essentially. Not brothers by blood, but brothers by time spent together. Brothers by experiencing the world together. They grew up around each other. They drove hours just so they could make $50 at a wrestling gig. They slept on each other's couches. These are two brothers. And now Jacob, being beholden to Roman, has to put Royce down. He's got to. And throughout it, he's yelling, you know, there's nothing personal. It's business. I have to do with the bloodline. It's about the bloodline. I have to. This is what I have to do now. And you know, the announcers repeating those things, saying, you know, Jacob probably doesn't want to do this, but he's unfortunately beholden to Roman through tribal combat. He has to do what Roman has said. And I think I didn't see it much out of Jacob last night. But I think if you can start kind of pulling the strings of regret in that, there is something very, very, very powerful there that can upset WWE as we know it. Because now Jacob has been forced to do something that he did not want to do. He had no desire to do that to Royce Keys. But Roman made him. And now we find ourselves at the end of the episode where Rey is talking to Roman about something to do with AAA. Now, what could that be? It could be, hey, we're trying to get some lift off for AAA, and I was thinking maybe you send one of your guys down there for a while. And they wrestle for us. Could be Jimmy. Could be Jay. Could be either of them. Could be both of them. So then you have Roman forcing Jacob Fatu to do something that he does not want to do in fighting Royce Keys and breaking Royce Keys. And then you have Roman Reigns forcing perhaps one or both Usos into going down to Mexico and wrestling in AAA for a month, being away from their family. I thought this was about family. What you have is Roman pitting himself against the bloodline. This is interesting. This is fun. Roman is pitting himself against his own bloodline, all at the same time that one Solo Sikoa is popping off. I think what we are seeing is OTC 2. The makings of OTC 2. And I think you're seeing it from Solo Sikoa. I have been theorizing for this for a while, that OTC 2 was coming. And I think you saw flirting with it, right? You saw flirting with it with Bronson Reed and the Shula Fala and really going after Roman. You saw flirting with it with Jacob coming after Roman. And I think initially the plan was to put Jay up and to put Jay over as the new OTC 2. But perhaps that isn't the case right now. We have seen Solo go crazy over. And because he is crazy over, well, Roman makes Jacob do something he doesn't want to do, alienates him. Makes Jay and Jimmy do something they don't want to do, alienates them. And all of a sudden, they don't want to be a part of the bloodline anymore. And there's a coup. And then you have a united bloodline in Solo and the Usos and Jacob Fatu. And if you want to include Royce Keys, you can include Royce Keys. You have a united bloodline in Roman Reigns alone. And that is an exciting proposition. That felt good. That felt good. I'm not going to lie. That felt like a good first pod. I don't really know where these things are going. I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to color correct this. I'm going to edit it, maybe throw some pictures in it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe in a week or two, we'll have a theme song. Maybe we'll have an intro. But that felt like a good place to end it. If you enjoyed this, please, by all means, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I would love it if you join me on this journey. And let me know your thoughts. What did you think of some of the things that I said? Do you think that Dom should snag a Coog? Do you think that there is potential for a new bloodline? Do you think that we should see the end of the Vision and the Judgment Day and see the beginning of 3 new kings fighting over the future of WWE? Let me know what you're thinking, and I'll see you guys next week.